Hey golfers, and welcome back to the Second Swing YouTube channel. It's another live at lunch. We're here in the Bay. We got a fun one today because if you're paying attention to the internet, you do a little bit of shopping, looking for deals. Of course, there's other big websites that have their deals this week. Second Swing's got their deals this week on swing days. And so we wanted to highlight some of the best values that we've seen just in the stores working with golfers, if maybe they're on a bit of a budget. To find really good performance, really good tech, maybe at a smaller price number. And so, that's one of the calling cards, Tyler, of Second Swing is having the selection of used clubs, in addition, obviously, all the fittings. But Tyler, so talk to me through what you've seen in fittings for used, and also when these clubs were new. We're talking about the Cobra Dark Speed LS Driver here, then we've got Titleist TSi woods, and then we'll go into Mizuno JPX925 hot metal irons.
Yeah. I'd say traditionally over a longer period of time, these are some of the best performers. One of the things like the Cobra Dark Speed, you've got the LS. Mm-hmm. Normally I'm looking at loft and seeing how that introduces launch and spin. We talk about the things that happen, especially to a golf ball at impact. I'm looking at this going, if I've ever needed a reduced spin, the last probably 4 models of Cobra have been very, very easy to do so.
Sure.
So when we're talking about that, not only is it just spin and in general, we talk about launch, is I have the ability to get a 10.5 that doesn't spin. So now maybe I can get it in the air and there's less spin, less curvature, less, we maybe lose a little bit of the overall stopping power on a driver, which is what we'd rather have is a little bit more rollout. The Titleist, as we get into the Titleist, some of the best designed woods that have come out in definitely in Titleist's lineup. But from an affordability perspective, you mentioned we're in swing days at Second Swing, and a lot of the other companies have their own version of this.
Yeah.
But the reality is that our swing days are 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Online, you're talking about the same equipment, except we may have something that's slightly used, the price gets knocked down. These companies have, the other competitors, if you want to call it that, because that's what they are, they're going to have their own swing day, or they're going to have their own programs that go into it.
Yep. But
it's for the new equipment. We've already got this stuff. We've already got it marked down. We've already got, a lot of this same equipment.
Yeah. I mean, it's, we have special things going this week, of course. We try to make kind of a fun week for golfers. Maybe we're starting to get to the back half of the year and you're still, there's a couple clubs in the Bay you want to make a little upgrade to. That's where swing days can be really helpful. We do have a question in the chat I already want to get to. More of a fitting question, but I think we can kind of get to it as we start doing some testing here. Yeah. For you, Tyler, how important is the shaft stiffness for the iron shaft specifically? So talking about irons and how important that is to make sure it's dialed in. Is it different in terms of the importance versus drivers maybe?
There's 2 types of swings, right? There's pretty much anything that's going to make some contact with the ground. And so as an example, when you have contact with the ground, we're talking about generally an iron, we're sometimes talking about a fairway wood and certainly wedges, versus a driver which is pretty much just off of a tee. So they are designed slightly different, but you still have graphite and you still have shafts and different stiffnesses in fairway woods and irons and wedges. The biggest thing that the shaft does as a proponent in the golf swing is connects our hands to the club head. And what it does in between is what we talk about in terms of its motions, its movements, what's too stiff, what's too heavy, what's too light or too flexible. The shaft can introduce different deflections or movements. So when we talk about iron shaft stiffness, it may not be the same as the driver. So the driver, you might swing the driver a lot faster, you might have upwards versus downwards, you might have different dynamics that are happening. Also, the 3 things that shafts measure against. The first is the raw weight. No matter what, how much a shaft weighs can be compared to another shaft. Number 2, the frequency, and that is kind of what is its bending profile. And there are a various number of reasons that one shaft performs different than another, but that's another factor. And you can measure every shaft against that. And then the third is torque. And torque is one of those things that has to do with the twisting effect, and that is something in steel we don't see very much of compared to you get into something like graphite. Now there's a wide variety of it.
So I guess there's more nuance to it than just the flex, right? It's about all these things that you're throwing in there.
Yeah.
torque
Yeah.
of it, weight of it, like that all is just as important as the flex. So I think it's, you know, like, and also brand by brand, the flex is a little different too. You know, a stiff flex for one brand of shaft might be a different, you know, might be different, so to speak, than the stiff flex of another brand. And so it's important to get dialed in for sure. It's important to make sure the shaft is right for your game, but I think differences between them are going to be different for the irons. You might see, you know, maybe I would argue probably not as big of differences versus if you have a driver that's the wrong shaft for you, you might see a bigger difference, and especially if you have a faster swing speed. It'll probably
Yeah.
be a bigger difference.
The other thing to keep in mind too is, you go ahead if you. I've got this all set up for you.
Perfect.
I can keep talking while you're hitting a few.
Yeah,
But the other thing to keep in mind, especially when you're talking about shafts, is you always want something that's going to help you perform in a certain area to a certain degree. So one of the things I talk about all the time is that the stiffer the shaft can get, the more control you'll end up with, but there's always a tipping point. And so one of the things I always talk about in my fittings is, what's our future look like? You know, how far out am I trying to go with this set? There are many of us that have clubs that we keep forever and ever and ever and ever. We just use them. That's a part of golf. Is when something's work, don't break it. Don't, you know, change out of it. But on the other side of it is when you start talking about shafts, and this goes for anything for that matter, does it wear out? Well, yes, it can. The bigger factor is, what are you changing? What's changing for you? So as I talk about the right type of club has the length and strength. If you're growing stronger, you might need a different shaft. If you're slowing down, you might need a different shaft. But it's not the overall speed, it's the motion. It's more about the pull or the tug, the transition that happens on that shaft. Because all the flex really starts as you get to the top of your swing, wherever that top is, and you start back down. So how aggressively you start back down can determine more of the type of shaft rather than just the flex. So we'll see, you know, really strong swings will come in.
Yeah.
And be like, hey, I want to create a little bit more launch, so I'm going to go to a much lighter shaft, but I'm still going to go to the extra stiff version of that shaft.
Yeah, that's what's nice about, you know, in the fitting bays, that's all the tools and all the components that are in there gives you guys, you know, the ability to fit any type of swing in there, which is the best, kind of the best aspect, I think, of second swing. So one thing I'm going to call out already, just after a few swings, you mentioned low spin with Cobra drivers. This is the Dark Speed LS. Again, I have the hazardous black, can't remember what gen this is it Gen 4 shaft? Anyway, 6.5, so an extra stiff shaft. So, but this is something I would play based on my swing speed. But we're already seeing that spin rate is comfortably below 2,000 with every shot so far.
Right.
That first one was probably a little off higher on the face, so maybe that's part of the reason. But the last two I've hit really good. Spin is still down for sure. Yeah, that spin rate is not moving much. Yeah, this is like, I'm going to call it out again, but the Dark Speed series, this is the LS, but there's, you know, the Dark Speed X, there's the Max. At just last year's technology to get it for, you know, barely over $200.
Oh yeah.
You know, get it shipped to you in a couple days if you're in the United States is it's pretty darn good. Pretty good offering if you're looking for a new driver. Don't turn over too much there, yeah.
I would say that as we talk about the Cobra here for a quick moment, it's so underrated.
Yeah, yeah.
They finally kind of cracked into, I would call it maybe the big five as we look at some of the numbers from your testing right here. I'm looking at this going, the overall pattern to what we're seeing is a low spin. That's one of the things that we talked about in trying to get, you know, a little bit better handle on launch and spin conditions. You're not carrying it as far as you could because it's not spinning, so it's not climbing. So you're looking at club speed. You're also moving this pretty fast. Did you grab an extra stiff with this, or is that just a stiff?
Yeah, this is a 6.5.
Okay.
Actually, a 70 gram 6.5. So I'm
so
really
this is actually a really, really good fit for you.
Yeah, this is a pretty heavy shaft here, a stiff one, but nonetheless.
Yeah, if I'm up here looking at like let's see here. Let's get a better.
Because one thing I would say too is, spin can also be affected a lot by attack angle. And for the most part, obviously we're not picking up attack angle with this particular Trackman device today.
Right.
But I'm one who typically will hit up on the ball with driver, usually a few degrees. So I'm already kind of a low spin player. And so to your point about the carry distance, right? For me, I'm going to probably lose a little bit of potential carry distance because of how low that spin is. You can see there, I had the one go high off the face. My peak height is still in the 70 to 80 range. Whereas if I were to have a higher spinning driver, with the way I'm swinging it right now, that would probably help me with carry distance. I'd probably gain, 5 to 10 more yards just based on how low spin that was so far with this driver.
Yeah, and so what have they done to create this? Well, they've got a couple of unique technologies. One thing that they do have is a power bridge. That really helps stabilize the crown and the sole. That's a big thing. That also allows them for center of mass movement. They've got a lot of carbon fiber, so they've got some on the bottom, they've got some on the top. So what that does is just allows for more weight savings, and they can adjust that weight. They've got 2 weight ports up front. So now you have both directional as well as launch and spin differences to it.
Yeah, the weight ports possibilities here are pretty actually incredible. Actually, the way it was set up right here, and in a fitting, we would move these around potentially, but the heavier weight is actually in the heel and forward here.
Yeah.
So which is maybe promoting this sort of lower draw ball flight in a sense that I had here. Maybe in a fitting, I can move that weight back, and you'd see that launch go up a little bit and the spin climb a little bit. But what we can do, I saw we had a comment already about TSI drivers, the player using TSi2. So I'm going to go bring out the TSi3 here. As the next driver.
As you're getting that, I would say, folks, you've got Dark Speed. There's the Dark Speed LS for low spin. There's an X model, which has 2 weights that move forward and back, so you can increase and decrease a little bit of launch and spin that way. There's also a Max model, and is there a draw model in that too?
For the
Dark Speed is the Max is the draw model.
The Max is kind of their high MY / draw. There's more weight in the heel.
We've got all 3 versions. We've got many, many, many of them sitting around with a couple different shaft options. We've got hazardous shaft options if you're talking about something maybe a little stronger. We've got the UST, which has what's in that one, the link cue?
Yep.
Yeah. So and then there's like 3 different versions. They've got a red, a blue, and a white. So there's some different shaft options and opportunities for that.
There's a ton.
And then we've also got, as we talk about it, that whole lineup, and especially in terms of cost effectiveness, we've also got fairways, and we've also got hybrids in that as well. So if you're really looking at updating the whole game in terms of that, that's a route that will provide you with the most complete technology in the game at the moment.
Yeah.
At a super affordable rate. We still got a lot of stuff that's in basically new in the plastic, or even just maybe.
That's probably the coolest part, is that a lot of this stuff still is in the wrapping, hasn't been hit. We did have a comment here, that same person asking about a potential upgrade, Callaway Rogue ST Max LS, based on the price, but also curious maybe on your thoughts as far as that one. This player, they're using TSi2, wondering if they should maybe upgrade to the Rogue ST Max there.
It's interesting. Talk about the upgrade side of it. You got the TSi2 there?
This is a 3.
Oh, 3?
3 driver, sorry. We have the 2 fairway, which will be hit
I'll
next.
change that out, and then I can talk about that. Another great one. Had this, love it. Bombs away. When we talk about, when do we change? What's the technology? Where do we get out of that, right? There has to be something discernible in terms of what's better. So you say, well, I've had this driver for a while. If it's better, so what's better? Well, you got ball speed. And ball speed on miss hits, not just ball speed off the middle. When we talk about the idea of launch and spin, right? Am I getting an appropriate amount of launch and spin? And then direction, am I moving this in the right direction? If I have someone come in and we're hitting it the same as we're hitting even the brand new technology that's 2, 3, 4 years newer, and we're getting the same thing, that may not be time for you to upgrade. But you can always upgrade. Like, you're not going to be losing something. That's the key, is we don't want to lose something. The question also becomes, when do we stop gaining? There's always a point at which we try to find that optimal. See, in my world, I'm just trying to find what's best. I don't care if it says a 2 or a 12 on the bottom. I don't care if it's a Callaway or a Ping or Titleist or some company that you may never have heard of before.
Right.
The biggest part of this is just to find the right fit. And so a lot of options go into that. And when you do find something, if it's working, then leave it. Like, that doesn't mean you can't test. And it's one of those things where if you've been outside, you've seen some differences to it, then we probably do want to come in and we want to, all right, let's see what's our comparison to that. So yeah, I think the big difference, it's a great question too, because when we talk about save money and playing, you have to look at what you're doing. Is this just a lateral movement, or is this like a more vertical movement? Am I gaining something? Is this straighter? Is this farther? Is it higher? Is it lower? Those are all the things that we want to try to accomplish. And I think with drivers, they've become so adjustable now. We're talking about having the ability to increase or decrease loft or lie angles and weight position, center of gravities. It's like there's so many options. That's one of the reasons why you come in and visit me, because I mean, that's what I do. It's like I tell people all the time, when I'm at work, I have a tremendous amount of golf knowledge. And when I leave work, I have a lot of useless knowledge, because it's all about golf. So I don't try to bore people outside of work.
I like that. That's a good way to describe that. Okay, so this was very different testing here. I was hitting a lot more around the face, and so that's why that dispersion's like that. But I also did see much higher spin overall. I had one that was with the TSi3 that was probably, in the good or close, I guess, in the Dark Speed LS spin range. Mm-hmm. Everything else was much higher. Again, that's probably that one you just marked was probably
just a little bit of an outlier.
Yeah, but this is probably a little bit more like what I would perform, I would expect from the TSi3 here. And it is worth noting that my carry distance is actually higher with the TSi3, despite we had a 142 smash factor in there.
Yeah.
The ball speed is actually is higher, but to see the more spin and more I guess peak height actually result barely. We're talking a fraction of a yard.
Yeah, there's a couple of shots right there that had that, and then the other side of it is going to the total, and there's a couple more shots that were a little bit farther there as well. Talk a little bit about the setup on this in terms of the shaft. If you got another hazardous.
Yeah, so this is the hazardous. This is the RDX smoke versus the standard, I think, 4th gen. So it's very similar, right? It's a 6.5 70 grams, so it's very similar. And then I actually, people may have seen me adjust the hosel there. That was it was actually set in B3, and I moved it to standard. So that was the main difference that I moved there. But I will say the consistency on the ball speed was also really impressive throughout, even with my shot that the 1.42 smash factor and a 1.40 smash factor with both drivers. To see the ball speed still retain itself, losing just maybe a few miles an hour there, was really good, because those were clearly big misses with both. And then the result too, as far as the dispersion, the ball on those misses didn't really go anywhere that different.
Yeah.
So I think that's impressive with both drivers.
I tell people all the time, it's like when we talk about those 4 things that happen to a golf ball, there's 3 of them you don't have while you're outside. You don't have the actual ball speed, the actual height, or the launch angle. Right. You don't have the actual spin.
You can guess, but you don't have a number like.
Well, you can guess if you know what your normals kind of are.
Right.
Like if you're abnormal, you might guess with it. But here's the problem with the guessing, and this is where I got caught many years ago. So thank you, Thomas Ellsbury. We have a lot of people out there who know Thomas, because he was one of our original fitters. He's a great fitter, still with the company. He just basically does everything now. He got me into what was happening in my driver right away. I used to play it kind of like very low, like 8 degrees, and try to hit it up and try to hit a draw. Well, here's the problem. It wasn't spinning.
Yeah.
In my eyes, what it did is it climbed and dropped out of the air. So what did I feel like it was doing? I thought it was spinning to get up in the air. No, that was what I was doing in terms of the launch angle. It wasn't spinning. Completely the opposite. And that happens a lot. We'll get people who come in and say, oh, this is spinning. No, it's not, and that's one of the things that you're losing distance on, because it doesn't stay in the air.
Right. Your perception is that it's spinning because it's going in the air, but really it's actually not spinning, and it's almost diving out of the sky a little bit more than it should.
And so you have to be really careful with that, because only in the idea, this had a lot more spin. The TSi3 had a lot more spin.
Well, part of that is right over there too with the face, with
Yep.
the impact location being a little lower on the face.
Yep, than it was. Yep, whereas a little bit more center on the LS.
But man, the consistency too of that spin on the Darkspeed LS.
Yeah.
Even if I was hitting it right, which I had one high on the face, but that's remarkable. So if you are a player that's really steep on it or is generating a bunch of spin with driver, like the Darkspeed LS is probably a really good place to start. It's also budget friendly too, as we're talking about. So
very. Yeah, a lot. And that Titleist, when they went into the TS project, the Speed project was really what it was known for.
Right.
In their terminology. They turned into the TSI, which was, I'm trying to remember the I, how they put the I in there.
Oh, I'm forgetting too. The R was like revolutionary or something like that.
Or refine.
Yeah, refine. There you go. I can't remember what the I was though.
Did it have to do with the titanium on the front, on the face though? I think it did.
It maybe did.
Yeah. So one of the things that we see is that we see these small iterations that are changing through the series. Now this goes for all of the companies out there. But when we start talking about one of the best drivers on the PGA Tour, on the tours in general, Titleist is at the top of that list. We've got a lot of players that are using it. That's not to say for any of the other companies, because listen, you know, we see the guy last week wins with ping. Okay, well he plays all ping. You know, it was his time. It was his week. Tomorrow, or you know, the next one.
Well, I'll tell you what, Shrixon had a good run there too.
Yeah, well, they had a good run in terms of their irons.
Yeah.
But
and then a lot of the guys are playing a different brand driver maybe or something like that.
You know, JJ was playing Titleist. I forget. Keegan, I think Keegan's
got a G430, I think.
Yeah, I think he plays a ping. So when you talk about the overall quality and the adjustments that you can make to it, the Titleist TS models.
Oh yeah.
Across the board now, even into the GT.
That's where even the person asking in the chat right now is saying, he was playing his dad's Sumo 5900, the Nike one, and then just found the TSi2 new for 320 and put that in the bag. And he probably doesn't need to change for a while, right? As long as he doesn't notice anything concerning, I wouldn't see a reason to change for a while because we just saw. I mean, TSi3 is still really fast, and so I imagine the 2 in his for him is probably really good. And we're going to hit the TSi2 3-wood now, which is another big time swing day deal on secondswing.com right now for really good price. Depending on the condition that you're looking at. And this actually, we found this one, an Aldilab Tour Blue Tour Extra Stiff Shaft. So this is going to be, hopefully for, accommodates a fast swing speed.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah. Ooh, a little fat.
A little flubber.
Actually kind of worked out though. I'm going to hit it a lot further when I hit it solid, but not too bad. Yeah, like that.
Yep.
Yeah, that is about perfect. Just under 3,000 spin. 275 plus on the carry. That one might be pulled a little bit. Okay, that's hanging on. Did knock down that height a little bit with the pull, but tell you what, those last 2 shots were fast though. You can feel it just spring off the club face. There we go. I tried to hit kind of a cut there.
That's still pretty good.
Yeah.
For some, carry time at 260, so you got, that wasn't much more spin than a couple of the others that you had.
Yeah, and that was purposely there. I was trying to hit a cut because ultimately, like the shot before that was one that I probably would not hold the green, or it was too low, right?
Right.
And I pulled it, so that was part of it. I was kind of just in my mind like, does this have enough spin and launch to be a club that I could hit into a green if I was going for a long par 5 and 2. And that shot kind of proved to me that I could. That's a money spin rate in the mid 3,000s to get the ball.
Well, and even
to stop, on or right, just barely off the green where I'm not in any trouble.
Even from a perspective, as we look at like what we see going on between the 3, I'm looking for some spacing and some gap. So as I start looking at that 3-wood, I'm saying, are 3 woods out around 290. Well, and I'd like to see something, especially your driver, probably carry around 290, where that 3 wood's kind of finishing off. And that,
I see. Yep.
and we know, I know your game, you know your game. That is kind of what you do with your driver, is carry right around 290 to 300. And that's one of the things that we also look at is we start to blend these together. It's kind of neat because you've got a Titleist driver and a Titleist fairway wood.
Right.
Same sort TSI. Well, that's great. You've got really, really good depth that we see in this. And I know there's one little bit left. You can hit one more.
Yeah, I know. But I think I was just mostly encouraged that like I could step up and I need to actually hit something to the green, right? Whereas maybe off the tee, I'd try to just maybe hit that lower draw that rolls out, right?
Yeah.
As when you're hitting something into a green, you want to make sure it stops. And that last shot proved I could definitely do that. I'll try to hit another kind of cut here, see if that helps with some more of that. That's still a little lower spin, but that is absolutely smoked. It's maybe a touch off the toe. But
another question, this is a good one since you've got this in your hand. There's actually a couple here. One, is the Callaway Rogue ST Max LS less forgiving than the TSi2? And the guys in the pro shop told you that the TSi2 is more forgiving. Forgiveness is a really tricky one. You have to define it. So the definition is ball speed. Is what type of ball speed do you get on a miss hit?
Right.
So when you start to get off the center, because none of the companies can get the ball to go more than 1.5 times club speed, right? So that's a legal limit. We talk about that as smash factor. If you're getting 1.50 on both drivers, so the ball's moving as fast as it can on both drivers, then it's the other attributes about the driver. Maybe it's the look, maybe it's the adjustment, maybe it's, are you hitting one just on the toe side, where the other one you're hitting on the heel side. So those can be things that help to make those decisions, not necessarily about which one's more forgiving.
There's
the way that golf companies are really trying to engineer their golf clubs is to try to get you to get your best when you don't hit it your best.
Yeah.
Every single golf company is looking at trying to be more forgiving in that sense. Something that goes faster, higher, straighter. If we're talking just straight up about forgiveness in models, you have to test it. It's the only way you know.
Yeah.
You might try that Callaway and go, this is the best thing I've ever hit. And then you try the Titleist and go, well, this isn't. Now, one of the options with us, which is a huge reason a lot of people shop with us, is the ability to return and exchange so that you can do that if you can't get to one of our stores.
Right.
So,
Go out, if in this particular scenario, order or purchase that Rogue ST Max LS, take it out, play with it a little bit, or maybe if you're able to at one of our stores, obviously go in and hit it and test it that way. But if you're remote or not near one of the stores, order it for yourself, check it out, swing it on the course, see if it fits, see if it's something that these buddies of yours, these people are telling you this is the right way to go, and they're right, perfect. Then you got a new driver that you're confident in, you can play it. If it doesn't fit you and it doesn't feel right on the course, it's not giving you exactly what you need, exchange it back with us, full credit. It's pretty cool to have that opportunity, and I think.
And so the second part of that is you just picked up the ST Max 3 wood and love it. Just hate the fact it's not adjustable.
Oh yeah, that's right. Those weren't.
Yeah. Well,
Rogue ST Max, right? We had I think you maybe had adjustable fitting heads, but didn't have the ones that were ordered were bonded, right?
Right.
Is that right?
In that lineup, yes, that series. Paradigm went to adjustable, and now they've gone to they went adjustable again in certain. Say, for instance, you're getting into like the 9 wood or 7 woods, I think, they're not adjustable.
Right.
So to a certain degree, like the newest lineup has more adjustability. The thing is if you go back like through Titleist and you take a look at like a TSI, as you're mentioning, but if you just keep going back through Titleist, they've had the same adjustability, the pieces that they've had going back, to 2010-ish? Somewhere around there? Like
something like that.
It was drivers, it was fairways, and it was hybrids. All at the same time.
Pretty much, right?
Yeah, and they've continued with it.
And it's been best, pretty much, to a point, now maybe with Cobra's hosel, but best in class in terms of adjustability for a hosel for a long time. Long time.
Well, and the Callaway 3 woods that weren't adjustable, are just fine if it's a good fit.
Right.
Right? It's the adjustability that benefits us because it's future thinking. All right, man, I really need a little bit more loft down the road here. Well, then I can adjust it. I can make that change happen. So
all right, we're going to change gears a little bit here because one of the ones we wanted to highlight as well, this is the JPX925 hot metal series. I know in terms of game improvement irons or distance irons, the fitters have loved these. Like super high remarks for this series, and there's a ton of distance here with this build. They have the chromoly material. This is a unique material or a unique metal that only Mizuno uses for their distance irons. We're going to test it today. And if you are someone that, I mean, and the price on these also is pretty good for a new, you know, because again, they were launched less than a year ago.
Yes.
So a new iron set that's going to give you really, really good forgiveness and distance. Like JPX925, I'm sure you've seen awesome things in the bay.
It is probably one of the better sellers. Couple of great things about it. Number one, you're talking about 3 different model heads. So there's the Hot Metal, Hot Metal Pro, Hot Metal High Launch. Those are the 3 models. Every model is a little bit more specific. So like for instance, the Pro is just a little slimmer. Same sort of specs. So in other words of lofting. The Hot Metal Pro, just a little tighter, little smaller. Still got tons and tons of ball speed. So I look at those as offset in terms of something whether I need more or less offset. Then there's the Hot Metal High Launch, which has got more loft. So across the whole set, that's got more loft. And a lot of this, again, goes to the 4 things. We talk about ball speed, launch, spin, and direction. So as we're really looking at all those factors, I'm just trying to, I'm fitting this iron. I'm trying to find what best fits along the spectrum.
And there's all these options. And then, you know, there's, of course, Mizuno's got a bunch of really good players irons as well. But we've seen ton of really good success, particularly with this one, where Mizuno hasn't been like super successful with distance irons until recently, I would say. But they've really hit the mark, I think, with these. There's a new face structure as well. Like, I think
with the ellipse
contour
design,
ellipse, just a different shape of the face, you know, behind on the interior of the club. It's really, really good.
As you hit a few, one of the other things that I really enjoy, especially about Mizuno, is talking from a customer perspective, is the affordability. When we have these irons are around they're $150 each. So you can kind of mix and match if you need to mix and match. But the real key to this is the amount of shafts and grips that are available at no upcharge. So say, for instance, you're a guy or gal that might want to see some graphite in that shaft. Well,
those are, they'll land in the same spot.
But if we're talking about this in terms of shaft options, I don't think any other company includes graphite as a standard charge to their irons. So when we start talking about the JPX models, or any Mizuno models for that matter, they do have a couple of the really high-end, serious graphites that are upcharges. You get a small additional charge if you're looking for the tour-issued type stuff. But the whole spectrum of shafts and grips are on the board. So, you know, when we're saying, hey, I'm going to get you something that's $150 a club at base price, that's what it is. It's not, all right, this is $152 and then another $14.75 for a graphite shaft, and you really like that grip, and that grip's going to be another $9.99 on top of it. It's like, so from a pricing perspective, you can get into probably one of the highest quality clubs, one of the best performing clubs, as well as all of the options that you have. And this is it's a common conversation. People say, well, is there better out there? If you test something better and it works better, that's fine. But if we get into the testing piece and we're meeting our needs or our goals in terms of this, you like that ball speed?
Well, that one, that was a low face one. Actually, I'm actually surprised by how the spin didn't really change on this last one I hit. Because I mean, it didn't really climb much higher, right? And it was very thin, very thin.
Right.
So it still went out there over 190 yards. Like, let me hit one more here. Yeah, that's. I mean, there is a ton of speed here. Like I have no problem carrying this club 200 yards.
Yeah. Question about getting a 6 through A wedge of T200s because they're on sale in your pro shop.
Hey, T200s are good.
They are really good, and that model is not a bad model whatsoever. That's really nice. You said they have extra stiff, and you want stiff. Do I go ahead?
That part might be interesting.
Well, and so the question is, do I go ahead and buy them and get used to them? The answer is, you can buy whatever you want. But if you're trying to adjust to something because of its cost, is that adjustment worth the money? And now, I'm not saying that you should go out and buy something that's brand new, in terms of like the current model.
I mean, the whole idea of a club fitting and what we do is to get someone into something for their swing, like their current swing, so that they're not getting something new. I got to adjust my setup or open up the face or whatever. Like, it's something that you can just pop your current swing into, and it's going to work for you. And so, I guess from that philosophy, from that standpoint, we would say just test them out, make sure that if you're going to go with the extra stiff shafts, that's fine, but just make sure it works for you and you're not getting used to them. It's more so your swing works when you play these clubs. That's kind of I know that's the philosophy that we're trying to do with our fittings.
I've gone down that road myself. I think we all kind of have as golfers. Well, I'll just get used to it. And that's a really tough one because you're going to spend the money. So if you're going to spend the money, then get the right thing. $600 is not something to fluff at. Like, that's a large amount of money. And if you really need 6 through gap and you're okay with that 600, I would put it to the test and say, plug those into the filters on secondswing.com, call any one of our online fitters or online sales service team, see if they can find that for you, maybe beat the price, or something really, really close to it.
Because the last thing you want is to be playing this set too, and on you're maybe it's like you're back 90 your first round with them. You haven't quite hit a good iron shot today, and you're like, gosh, they're too stiff. Yeah. The last thing you want is something in your mind, something that would hurt your confidence in any way.
Right.
That's how I would feel about it anyway.
Yeah, and the other part about whether you get them through your golf shop or not, that's a hard one because I know, like, personally, we play at golf clubs where you'll win some money and you get some pro shop credit and whatnot. Sure. You've got to make the best decision for you. That's the only thing I can really advise you on in that. And if you look at it in terms of what you're going to get, did you miss the 6 through gap wedge in the Srixon, ZX Mark II?
Yeah, that's exactly what David just put in there. He said ZX5 Mark II is a great use diamond.
So like that, but you could even you might even find that those clubs, just as with the shaft you need, they're very similar, they're almost identical. Yeah. And like that, it's just ironic that the timing comes
I thought you
in.
Looked at the chat and when he
No, not at all. No, there's a lot of things that we do on a day-to-day basis that we see, and we just try to kind of use the best information that we have in front of us. Every swing's a little unique or a little different. So
I mean, and as it pertains to the Mizuno JPX925s, is there anything else you had from this? Otherwise, I mean, super fast ball speeds, no doubt. Other than my real big miss hit, which I had lost 10 miles an hour ball speed, low on the face, and actually still, it's not like I drastically, super crazy lost distance there.
Well, I would also say is
over 190 yards. Still,
let's throw the one out for a second. And one of the keys that I'm looking at with this, one is peak height. You've got this up around 115 to 20 feet in the air.
Yeah.
Okay. You've also got spin at a higher level, higher rate. Folks, smash factor is for anything that's 19 degrees and below. And this is not. This is at 28, I believe.
Yeah, which is strong for a 7-iron.
It is strong, but there's differences. There's a reason for that. That actually is a very, very important conversation piece. Let's bridge that for just a second. But as we get to this, you've got ball speed, you've got height, you've got spin, you've got landing angle, you've got stopping power.
Yeah.
There's nothing about this that I would worry about. The question is, where does this fit into your scheme?
Right, and this is where, for me, I don't need to hit a 7-iron that far. Like, this club goes too far for me.
No, I would even argue this. It's not about the fact that it says 7 on it. You have a club that does this in your bag. It just doesn't say 7
This is a better way
it.
this is a better way to put this.
But see, this is the conversation that we have to have, because customers, please think about this, viewers out there. It doesn't matter if it says 7 on the bottom or 5. What does it do?
Do I need a 200-yard carry shot in the bag?
Yes, you do.
Yeah, I do. Right now, with my current set, it's a 6-iron.
Which is fine.
But I have to hit this shot on the golf course. I need to.
And so let's break it down. The 6-iron in your bag is probably the same loft as that.
It is very close. I think it's, I want to say, yeah, I think it is.
And so again, it goes back towards ball speed, launch, spin, and direction. This is why, as an example, maybe the gentleman was asking for only a 6-iron as the highest lofted club.
Yeah.
Because in the Titleist set, these are a little lower lofted. They're not.
It's not as bad as. No, I should say not.
Well, the 6-iron.
As strong as
actually,
this,
the 6-iron might be like that right there. It might even be 28 degrees in that Titleist set.
Yeah.
So you're talking about the same sort of club in terms of its effectiveness. This is something that comes up a lot. I mean, it comes up almost every fitting. Is, well, yeah, but this loft is jacked. No, that's just the loft. Period. End of story. The numbers on the bottom may have changed, but that's because of engineering. The faster the ball moves, the higher it goes, the more it spins. Hello?
Yeah.
This is it's not a loft issue as much as it is a launch and spin compared to ball speed.
Yep.
So if the ball is moving faster, it's going to go farther.
Yeah.
And that's one of those things where, if generally speaking, if it's going faster and it's spinning more and launching higher, we need to reduce that. So that's where loft comes in on the play.
Correct. I mean, we could go on and on about this, but you know, for all you want to talk about with Bryson and you know, if you like him or don't, his irons are like way stronger than this even. It's because he's hitting it so fast that he needs his lofts to be super strong to hit the windows he needs, because he's swinging it so fast, and you know, and he's doing a bunch of other things with, you know, the bulge and roll.
You had his gap wedge. We actually had his gap wedge. We did that testing right after the US Open last summer.
Yep.
And we're like, hey, well, Bryson's got a unique setup, and so we kind of just took that, and that was one of the live at lunches we did. The other thing I was going to say is I had a customer that was very, very low launch on everything, just a couple days ago, younger kid. So what I did is I took a 7-iron that was already at 33 degrees and turned it to 35 degrees. It's like I added 2 more degrees of loft. Now we'd look at a 7-iron and go 35. Well, that's an 8 now.
Yeah.
But guess what it did? It went as far as his 8, because what was his 8-iron doing? The same thing.
Yeah.
And so now it just has 7 on the bottom.
Right.
But he also didn't need to hit an 8 190 yards in the air. Like, I just needed I needed to kind of give him more on the bottom end of the bag.
Correct.
Because like, as we talk about all of these D lofts, there's also been all of these wedges added in, and now we have wedge fusion. It's the confusion of wedges. Is like,
because then you have a.
Wait a minute. So my pitching wedge is what?
A pitching wedge and a gap wedge.
Yeah.
And an approach wedge.
Yep.
You know, you have like 5 wedges.
Yep.
But really, it's the same makeup as an iron set from 10 years ago. It just might, instead of saying a pitching wedge on it, it says, you know, fat gap wedge or whatever the case might be. Like the lofts, you probably had a similar loft club in the bag 10 years ago. It just might have been a 7 instead of a 6 or whatever the case is. So it's.
Well, and that's what we talk about. It's like, getting back to the Mizuno. This is a great fit, especially for people that are looking to maximize some of the, get some longer distances with good launch. Even the high launch has got a couple more degrees. It's got 3 more degrees than that.
Yeah.
Like, that's just going to go even higher. So come down, have some stopping power. For you to be able to just, whatever this club is, right? It happens to be a 7-iron. But to carry this at 200 yards and basically have it stop.
Yeah. I mean, this is
huge.
These are, I mean, for a club going that far, carrying it just over 200 yards on average, to have it well over 100 feet. I mean, it's got 5,000 spin, which, you know, at that height and spin or ball speed, that's going to be definitely enough for it to stop.
Yeah, we don't have
that's perfect
landing angle, do we?
Yeah, we do, right over there.
Oh, there.
We're up to, we're close to 50 on that.
Sorry, there you go. Yeah, that's a 48 degrees.
Yeah,
you're basically sitting around 50 degrees.
Yeah, so that's, I mean, we kind of start to wrap here, but like, I guess, you know, so many people might just, you know, dismiss, so to speak, these older clubs or maybe clubs from a year or 2 ago because, you know, that might be that zone where they're still expensive, but they're also still not the newest. whereas I think these are tremendous. You have
right, and even last model, like in these, we got a lot of those too. And
yeah. Oh, there's so many of these. So, you know, we tested Dark Speed LS. We tested we tested the TSi3 and TSi2 metals. Like they're awesome. So.
I was gonna comment real quick.
Sure.
So last thing there is he was talking about likes the irons, but maybe do I want to upgrade?
Yeah.
So to answer that question, one thing I wouldn't do is I would not buy the Titleist irons and reshaft. I wanted to make that clear. And only because of the cost of reshafting, it's not worth the value of the clubs. You're better off spending that same amount but getting the right club.
Right, because if you buy the $600 set, and then also buy the shafts and have them reshafted,
and that generally
ends up adding up to something that
about
would be
it's about somewhere in the neighborhood of $50 to $75 per club.
Right, which at that point just get fit for something.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, this has been fantastic. We appreciate everybody joining.
Good questions, great questions, great comments
joining,
today.
you know, maybe after you're watching this after we're live, leave comments there as well. Tell us if there's any maybe clubs that we missed that we should have tested that are really good values right now on secondswing.com. Let us know. But otherwise, we'll be back next week. We're going to be testing some of the newer stuff now that's out. Obviously, today's a big day for Titleist. There's new T-Series irons. So there's Ping's got new irons
Titleist,
out. Callaway's got new irons out. So next week we'll be testing some of the new stuff. But as for this week, with Swing Day still going on, make sure if you want to take advantage of a deal, you got a few days to do so at secondswing.com. Tyler, thanks for joining today. This was great.
Always. Keep your grooves clean and stay razor sharp.